I feel like when you are in tune to your body, it allows other people to have their like experiences and their feelings, and then you validate them. That's mostly what I do. So if I asked you, what if you need something, you know, what would that look like? Where would you start? What are you interested in? And just helping people to say, you're right. Yeah, let's look at that. Let's look at, you know, anemone.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, so what if that's what you need, right? So yeah, I do feel like that's all of our superpowers. And so we just need to go back to trusting ourselves and our bodies.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Oh, mommy, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm really excited to have on Jodi McKee. Welcome to the show, Jodi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mason.
Of course. Really excited to get to know you and your journey and your store a bit more. By the way, we're here at a beautiful store called Jewelweed, which Jodi founded here in Wayzata, Minnesota. Can you tell us more about the location, where we're at, what that beautiful lake across the street is?
Yeah, so across the street is Lake Minnetonka. You may have heard of it. Prince refers to it in the Purple Rain movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty famous. Yeah. So it's a big a big destination in Minneapolis. We're west of Minneapolis, and so I know it's a beautiful lake. It has a lot of lakeshore. It has a lot of houses around it. There's a couple little towns around it, and so this is Wayzata. And when I was considering opening a shop, I looked at lots of kind of different places, and when I found, you know, something here on Lake Street, it just felt right. Like I had already, like the name Jewelweed had like been brewing in my head, and Jewelweed grows across the street on the lakeshore, and so it felt like this was an appropriate place.
It's a vibrant community too. I mean, people everywhere. It's it's such a lovely part of town, and I never really knew about Jewelweed, the plant, until I came out to the Midwest. I'm sure it grows in Oregon, which is where I'm from, but seeing it for the first time at High Cliff State Park, just outside of Appleton, Wisconsin, I'm blown away. Can you tell us how Jewelweed, the plant, gets its name?
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you a little bit of a story of about Jewelweed for me and why it came to be. So there's several different meanings, like jewel, and we sell a lot of crystals, and weed. And I know when you put it in the water, or the dew in the morning looks like a jewel sitting on the leaf, and so it's really beautiful that way. But for me, Jewelweed has like a kind of a special meaning. So I had some problems with my kidneys, and I was pregnant with my third son, and they had put me on, here comes the train. They had put me on bed rest, so they had put me on high risk, and my kidney numbers were off, and I was having blood in my urine. And my herbal teacher, Lise Wolf, put me on just 1 drop of Jewelweed in the morning and 1 drop at night. And my kidney numbers leveled out, and they took me off high risk. And actually my kidney numbers have stayed consistent. My son's 18, my youngest son is 18. And so he's a Jewelweed baby.
Wow.
So we joke about that because he works in the shop too. So he he's like 6'4", he carries all my
Berit's
crystals.
His boss.
Yeah, Berit's his boss, yep. But yeah, so Jewelweed has just always been a special plant for me. It's just coming up right now outside. It's just tiny, and I eat the little tiny, like just 2 leaves when it comes up like that. And you don't use it too often in tincture form, but I think when you do, it was just really powerful. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I want to say I heard you say you sell jewels and weeds.
Well, no.
Okay.
Sorry. well, weeds, because like, you know, like plantain, sap, like that kind of weed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Weeds. Yeah. Lots of weeds. Weeds are my favorite, and not the kind that you're thinking of.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Very good. Well, I would love to hear about your origin story. Now, I read your bio on your website, which, by the way, dear listeners, definitely go check it out, because it's a beautiful story. It's very inspiring. And I was just hoping you could kind of give the audience a little bit about the story.
Yeah. So my what started me on my herbal path is, so again, like I have 3 boys. My oldest son is 27, and so when he was born, he was sick from almost like right away. So he was sick with colds and flus and coughs, and I basically for 5 years we were in the medical system. We just were taking him to specialists. We did everything that we were supposed to do, that they told us to do, but he ended up being on medications, steroids for asthma and allergies. And so he was just sick literally all the time. And there was like I tell in my story, we brought him to the Mayo Clinic, and I was thinking, oh, the Mayo Clinic is going to help us. Like, I need help. I had just had another baby, and I was really overwhelmed with him always being sick. We had, 911 calls. He stayed in the emergency. We were in the emergency room a lot. We would, he's had extended hospital stays, and it was just really scary to raise a kid like that. And so we go to the Mayo Clinic, and I had him tested for allergies and asthma, and they sprayed a bunch of stuff in his lungs. And I don't know, when we drove away, he was really sick. So he was coughing. He was sicker than when we got there. He had like a whole rash of stuff from the allergy testing. And so it was just really, it was that moment when I was driving away that I realized that I actually needed to figure out what to do with my child that was sick all the time, and that it was my responsibility, like as a mother, to figure this out, and that I didn't really get much help. And one of the biggest things is, like, at the Mayo Clinic, they had tested him for, so if my son would have a piece of pizza, we would end up in the emergency room that night, no matter what. And so it was like, wow. I knew that, but then they tested him and said, no, he's not allergic to dairy, he's not allergic to gluten. But that didn't make any sense to me because I could see what was happening with him. And so I just got really serious about, I read all the books. There was not really an internet. I didn't even have a computer, I don't think, back then. So I went to the library, I got all the books I could on natural health, on healthy homes, on what vitamins and minerals that kids might be short of. And I just did everything that I could that way. I changed his diet. He went off dairy and gluten, and that was like 22 years ago. Nobody was doing that then. And then I met my herbal teacher. This is actually how I met her. I signed up. I had seen a flyer somewhere, and I showed up for a class. And I'm from like the suburbs. I didn't know anything about herbal medicine. I'd never heard of anybody doing herbal medicine. I actually thought people that were like they might be a little crazy. So I got a flyer. I showed up to a class. I was kind of like checking her out, like, is she for real? And then I went to see her, to talk to her, and she ended up giving Alec Bone Set. And so again, she uses drop doses, kind of in the Matthew Wood vein. And so I think he did like a drop in the morning and a drop at night. And again, what happened is actually he got a cold, and it was the first cold he had ever had in his entire life where he didn't wheeze, and he coughed up a ton of mucus. And he literally never had asthma again. And then, with diet changes and all that, we kind of figured out what his constitution was, what he could eat and what he couldn't eat. But now he's 27, he eats everything. He's really aware of his body, knows what foods, he's just in tune with what's happening in his body. But yeah, it was a long journey, and it did get me here. And my whole life is based on
it's changed
herbs.
Completely.
Yes. And I have 3 boys, and they were all raised on herbal medicine and natural healers. And I would be the one taking my kids to who knows where for who knows. Like, all my friends are always like, "What is she doing? Where are you going?" But my kids are healthy, and they love the plants, and they know herbal medicine, and they were raised like this is normal to them. So.
Did the second kid have anything wrong with him that you needed help out with?
We all have really good, like, kind of herbal stories. He had strep a lot, and so we, by the time I wasn't as good with him, I didn't know as much, but when they have strep 6 times in a year, they're going to take out his tonsils, and I have to figure it out because I'm not going to let his tonsils be taken out. And usnea is what we use for that, and that he had it once again in high school. That got really bad, but that usnea is kind of what helped us with that. So yeah, we all have like surgeries avoided, like my husband has. So I want to just talk a little bit. So my husband he's an accountant, he's a CPA. So when my kids were little,
tax season just finished.
Yeah,
as we're
right.
Recording this.
Yeah. Well, when you'd go to
Stressful.
the doctor, it would be expensive. So he'd be
Sure.
like, "Can't you just fix it? Can't you just figure out what to treat the kids with so we don't have to spend the money on that. So I always say, people ask, what does your husband think? And I'm like, he's all for it because it's cheaper than the doctor. And it works actually, like effective. So yeah. So he's been a good supporter of all this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the emphasis on trusting your body. And you've seen, like, Mama Knows Best and herbs work. Like, it seems like all these themes, and you're a very inspirational story. So I love that you kind of just took control of the matter and just made it happen, healed your family. So that's very impressive. You mentioned Lise Wolf.
Yeah.
Who have been some of your other herbal mentors, if you have any other ones you'd like to shout out?
So Lise is always, like, I give her credit because that was she is like the one person, like, if there was a left turn in my life, like, Lise was it. And so I studied with her. I've apprenticed with her a little bit. I've taken classes from Matthew Wood.
Oh, okay.
And
is he still based in Minnesota or no?
I think he was in Wisconsin for a while, maybe in California now. I'm not sure. I still have taken his online classes a little bit here and there, but because I practice drop doses like a lot of people in Minnesota, so that kind of, like, I feel like comes from him. And then Yulia Graves is another one of my teachers. Again, she's going to be here next week, and so she flies in from Germany, and she stays at my house, and she helps me and my kids, and so it's really fun to have her. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, yeah. And then I've studied with lots of other herbalists. Like, I think I went to Belize and studied with Rosita Arbago. I've did the Plant Lovers Journey with Rosemary Gladstar, and just there's just lots of people, and any herbal experience or teachers that I can get, I'm all for it.
The learning never ends.
Yes.
You also went to Chestnut School online?
Yes, I did that.
Which is how I originally connected with you.
Yes,
so.
Yes. It's a beautiful program.
Okay, yeah, I've heard lots of amazing things, and Juliet Blankspor. I actually saw her book somewhere over here. I think it's right here,
Yep, yeah.
Shout out Juliet Blankspor.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let me put that back. I think it'd be cool if you and Berit gave us a herb shop tour. We could check out the different sections of the store, and I'd like to learn more about what you do here at Jewelweed. So let's go on an herb shop tour.
Awesome, let's do it.
Wow, you booked it.
And when I was thinking about opening up a shop, the name Jewelweed came to me right around the time when I found kind of the space. And so Jewelweed grows across the street along the lakeshore, and so it seemed like this was a really appropriate name and that we were planted in the right place.
So this is the crystal table. And when Jodi first started Jewelweed, she wanted this to kind of be a really fun invitation. Because when you think about when you're little and when you have that kind of like joyful call to nature of all elements, rocks are so cool. And so this kind of brings you back to that wonder and enchantment of rocks. And it's kind of set up like a crystal charcuterie board. We have it rainbowed out in different colors. Every crystal comes with a card that we kind of channel and write ourselves. And there's all different types. And so we like to tell people to go where you're called rather than reading the cards first, because if you come in with an intention or you're thinking about what you want to work on, the crystals kind of tend to invite you to work with them. So these are actually gem essences. So it's like flower essences, but for crystals. And then they have corresponding essential oils matched with them. So you do not ingest these. We actually had an employee who thought they were ingestible. We don't.
They're oils.
Yeah, they have essential oils in them, so we're not doing that. But the person who makes these, she's out in Portland, and she works with color a lot. We actually have one of her decks in the shop. And so she also has like plant correspondences to each of them. So this, like the obsidian one, for example, is associated with ashwagandha, burdock root, and hawthorn. So yeah, she works with gems in a really cool way.
Is that Portland, Oregon or Portland, Maine?
Portland, Oregon. Very good question.
Hometown, yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the table, and I'd say this is probably one of the most central features of Jewelweed. Yeah.
And this is our burnable table. And so we have lots of different options for different plants that people can use to clear their space or to for meditation. We have we have many favorites that are a little like not traditional. So we have like a vetiver that comes from Hawaii, and that is, they use it to help erosion. So they use it on the banks, and then they harvest the root. So it's a really good, like, this is like, I don't know, one of the best burnables, I think, to use for that purpose. And also it smells like amazing. So we use this one for grounding, for clearing. Sometimes people use it before they go to bed. We use it lots of times in women's circles. And then we have like traditional Palo Santo. We have pine fatwood. I think that comes from Wisconsin, actually. We have eucalyptus. And we have different, like, kind of traditional incense. One of my favorite is copal, so that's kind of how I learned to space clear. And when I was a designer, I used to often use copal or an essential oil spray. And then we also have just, like, we give out just a little card about how people can clear their space and what that means and what that looks like, and just the practice of getting into it and setting their intentions. And I always tell people, it's like you use your intention and you use a plant, and those two together is what clears the space and creates the space. And so, so we love, this is like also a really popular table and place, and a lot of people are just, this is new to a lot of people. And so we love to be able to introduce this to people. So usually at all of our events, when people come in, we usually do some space clearing. We introduce them to a different plant. So that's this table.
So this is our skincare and body care section, and it's one of my favorite parts of the shop. So we have, skincare, we have face oils, we have lotions, we have our CBD bath products are definitely one of our most popular. And then we have more bath products down here. One of my favorite lines is called Romy Apothecary. And it's made by a woman in St. Paul, Minnesota, and she was an occupational therapist for years, and then just got a little burnt out and wanted to kind of find something that felt more fulfilling for her soul. So she learned herbalism, and then her grandmother was from South Korea, and she really loved skincare. Like, she would value skincare over groceries sometimes. It was one of her passions. So Romina took that and then married it with her love of herbalism. I can't live without her rose and yarrow toner. It's like what gets my oily face through the summertime. But she has a ton of other products that are really amazing and super intentional and handmade. And one other thing we really prioritize is never using any products when it comes to body and face care, and our candles as well. We don't use anything that has fragrance in it. So a lot of companies will say that their products are natural but still use fragrance oils, and we've just decided that that's not something we're going to carry here. So everything either is from essential oils or absolutes. One of our fragrance companies, like our perfume companies, she'll actually just basically make tinctures and then turn those into perfume oils. So yeah, we're really passionate about that and really being true to the natural name.
And this is, this section right here are our flower essences, and we have several different brands. These essences are Lotus Way. They come from Katie Hess. Her brand is out of Phoenix, Arizona. She has, these are elixirs, so there's usually like 5 to 6 flowers in each bottle, and you take it internally, where these are an aromatherapy mist and aromatherapy oil. So those you put on the body. So those are really fun. She's got a quiz online that you can take, and then it tells you what mix you might want. And one thing that's really fun too, she has a flower on each bottle. And so one of the ways you can tell, sometimes we flip all these and just have customers just pick their favorite flower. And that's like, then they take that home, and that's, they have a whole thing with that. And then down here, and this is just the Bach remedies that everybody is real familiar with. And then this is the Lily Circle. So next week we have one of my herbal teachers coming in from Germany, Julia Graves. Her book is The Language of Plants. So the Lily Circle is one of the methods that I use or that I learned from flower essences, and you can see like she's got a whole circle. So it starts actually pre-birth and goes all the way kind of to death, but we circle this many times in our lives. And so this is kind of a guide, and she used all lilies for her circle. And so we're going to be having a class on that next week, and we're really excited. But anyway, these are really fun and really popular, and we love the lilies. And this is our herbal section. And in this we have we have the powdered herbs, and we have some tinctures and kind of some elixirs mixed in here. We handpick all of our brands, so they come from all over the country. We have a couple that are kind of from our regional biome, which is Rhubarb Botanicals. She is in Iowa, and she has an herb farm, and she's just new in the last couple of years. And so we really love her products, and hopefully we'll get more in. Right now we have a couple of her tinctures and a couple of her salves that she makes. But other than that, some of you might recognize some of these brands because they're the big ones. Anima Mundi, the Lunar Logic, we love them. Zylish, I love Dove Soul and her work. So Avena Botanicals, we love that brand for the singles. I don't know, the rainbow mushrooms, that is one of our very favorites. We love, love, love that. And these guys, the Forest Folk Fungi, they're amazing. They are like one of the coolest people, I think, on the planet. They're a couple, and they do this.
Do you know where they're from?
They're by the Appalachian Mountains. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they're a married couple.
And they're the cutest. Allie and what's her?
Joe.
Yeah, they are literally adorable. So they hand make they do all their mushrooms, they hand make everything. Anyway, we love, love, love them.
One thing that we're really excited about is all of our mocktail and non-alcoholic bottle suggestions. So we have, some of it's over there, but we have kind of two big brands, Seedlip, which has become pretty popular, and then 3 Spirit. And it's been really fun. The trend of like not drinking as much alcohol has become really pervasive in our culture. And this journey that I've been on, I grew up in a family where you drank every single night. So it's been really fun to have alternatives, especially herbal alternatives, because you don't have to let go of that fun, euphoric feeling from drinking. You can actually get that from herbs. So the Seedlip is more of like a spirit forward idea. So if you like the taste of alcohol, these are great. But my personal favorite are the 3 Spirit, because they have a lot of herbs in them that still give you that like dreamy, like first drink feeling, while actually still being really great for you. So the Livener is definitely one of my favorites. It has, let's see here. The main herbs in here are Schisandra. So that's like a very like uplifting herb. And then there's, obviously you guys know that, but then the watermelon, and then there's cayenne in here. That's the main flavor profile. The other one, the social one, has Damiana and lion's mane and cacao. So it's a really kind of weird flavor profile, but it's super good with ginger ale. And that one is so bubbly. Like the Damiana is just so uplifting. So we love that one. And then the nightcap is very much to its name. We have valerian, lemon balm, hops in here. So it's super cozy before nighttime and actually really good for sleep. So yeah.
This is our tea and cacao section, and we are very serious about our tea and cacao, very picky about it. One of the brands that we love is the Aura Cacao. They make the 100% cacao sourced from different countries, so Belize, Colombia, Tanzania. They have a Guatemalan brand, and so this is what we use often, like for our women's circles. We serve it in the shop. And I learned about cacao from a man in Belize. And so then I was trying to source it. So I learned about it. I was in actually a Rosita Arvago class there, and we went into town, and there was a shop that was run by a Mayan man, and he was teaching everybody about cacao. And so everybody in my group, we'd been like studying stuff all week and very serious. And everybody in my group, like first he was making, like we went through all the steps. So he showed us like how you you get cacao to a place that you can drink it. So we did all that, and what I noticed is by the time we were done, everybody was laughing, giggling, crying, hugging each other. And here we'd been doing this like spiritual healing all week, and the cacao like blew everybody wide open, and it was really beautiful. And so it made me just really curious about like, what is this and how can I use it? And so when I opened up Jewelweed, I spent a lot of time sourcing, and I actually, his name is Jonah, he's out of California. I took a lot of time trying to find a really good source for cacao that I really liked and had the kind of the effect that felt really good to me. And so I really do like this brand. We found another one too, Cacao, where they add a little bit of coconut sugar, so it makes it a little bit more palatable for some people who don't really like the 100%. And then also we have another line, Botanical Lucidity. She is local, and she makes a cacao nectar. So she does use cacao and with some other herbs and drinks. And so
the hawthorn berry in that one just blows your heart open.
Yeah, with the cacao.
And the cayenne.
Yeah. Yes.
It just gets right in there.
And we love cacao. I mean, I don't know what you guys know about, but we love cacao because it's, high in magnesium, high in lots of vitamins and minerals. It has theobromine, which increases dopamine. It just makes everybody feel good. And so that, I think it's the heart opening effect. And we use it as a tool, and we just love it. Love working with it.
So. When I first started here, that was the first thing I got trained in on. We were in so we just moved in this bigger location in November, but for 5.5 years, we were 2 doors down in a much smaller spot. But we still had room for a cacao station in back. So the old store manager was training me, and she was like, all right, every day we start with cacao, and this is how you make it, and this is what you do with it, and you have to drink it while it's hot, and it's just, we love it so much, and it's something we almost always have at our events, and we love it. And then we also have a great selection of teas. Well Rooted is probably our favorite. It's by a local woman named Rachel, and she either grows or forages for a lot of the ingredients in there, specifically the Up North blend. This is one of our favorites. She'll go up to the North Shore and forage for these ingredients. So we love this one so much. It is, anytime someone's wondering what to bring when they're visiting Minnesota, what to bring home as a keepsake, this is what we say. And then we also have some of the Anima Mundi teas as well. And the liver vitality greens are super wonderful, especially if you're a seasonal allergy sufferer like I am.
So because we are serious about our cacao, we always give out, like when people buy the cacao, we have, this is like your daily cacao. So often we might put some other herbs in it, just depending on what's happening with you, right? So it's because cacao is, I think it's really tasty. So it takes other herbs really well. So, putting lion's mane or maca or, any of your adaptogens in it, we often do that. And so we have a daily cacao. We put flower essences in it. We in our women's circles, we blow our intentions into our mug. And so we have a whole thing that talks about that. And then we just have another thing that kind of talks about if you're going to have a cacao ritual, what does that look like? What do you mean? How do you make that, right? How do you make a big batch of it? What does that look like too? So anyway, we are pretty serious about our chocolate here. So this is our book section. So when we first opened, I just had like probably 10 books, and that was it. And then it's exploded into, we have books here, we have books over there. Our herbal books are kind of over there, and we are very serious about our books. So Berit and I spend a lot of time sourcing our books, finding new books. We try to do kind of like older books, newer books, and in general, it's like anything that has to do with health and wellness. And a lot of times, because the store has so many different things, there's certain people who need to read about everything first. And so I feel like this is always a good place to come, and they can be introduced to lots of new information. One of my favorite authors is Sharon Blackie. Actually, my favorite book by her recently is called Hagitude, but she just, she uses story and archetypes and relates it to people's lives and the different seasons in our lives and how we can use those kind of as a guide. So here's our beautiful bookshelf.
Yeah, so these are our books, and then we also have a big deck selection, and I think thing that really sets us apart from a lot of places is that we have samples of all of our decks, because a big part of working with tarot or oracle is connecting with the imagery. But HerbRally, specifically, one of our favorite decks is called Dirt Gems, and they do such a good job about explaining the actual like medical and nutritional information about the herbs, but also more of the spiritual, energetic information. And the cards are really beautiful. So the one that's at the top right now is chickweed, and then it also sorts them by element. So yeah, they do such a good job, and it's a really fun way to connect with the plants and just see what medicine you're needing for the day.
So one thing that we often do is pull a card. So I don't know if one of you want to pull a card or we want to pull a card, but we often have people, or they'll come in and be like, can I just pull a card? So we do that with them.
Someone's calling to me.
You can tell us, it's okay.
What'd you get?
An enemy.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
So then you just kind of look in the book. And it, like I said in the beginning, it breaks them up by a blaze, which is fire, a float, which is water, a drift, which is air, and a midst, which is earth. And so then the anemone is called the wind rider. And then it just kind of goes, it's like kind of poetic, but it also just gives you a lot of good nuggets to chew on. Even if you just want to like go in and like kind of use it as a guide to learn about the plants, or if you want to use it as a deck, it's perfect for both. And I think that's the best type of deck, is one that's like inspiring and informative.
Yeah,
and
totally.
This is another thing we're very picky about. We get samples of all of our decks before we carry them. So, because we don't want, I mean, we're very picky about our books too, but decks are something that can feel really like very vulnerable, because when you pull a card and you read a message, like it can kind of sit with you. It feels like that card really picked you, and we don't want to co-sign a message that doesn't feel inspiring or doesn't feel like it will call you somewhere. Because I think there's a lot of misinformation about tarot and oracle cards, and I was definitely raised to be very fearful of them, but they're actually just a really beautiful tool to connect with your inner knowing.
We have a couple different lines of jewelry, and the jewelry makers are all people that we know and that we really connect with kind of their message and their work. One of them is Amy Sabatier. So I guess the best way to maybe show this is she does the tarot necklaces, which are down here, and then she does some other goddess necklaces. She does some necklaces with stones and crystals, and then she's got a bunch of necklaces over here. Her name is Amy Sabatier. Her tagline is, it's like adventure, but they're meant to be pieces that mean something, that carry, like, I don't know.
If they carry, so I think adventure inspired jewelry is her tagline. And I remember when she told me a story that she saw what are those? What are those?
Oh, the Roadrunners.
Roadrunner.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she saw a Roadrunner and she was inspired. So then she made like a whole line of Roadrunner jewelry because she loved how funny and whimsical it was. And she works with a lot of stones. She has some beautiful like butterfly wing pendants. She has a whole line of zodiac stone or necklaces. And she very much is just like learning as she goes. She learned a lot of tarot through here, and she specifically designed the tarot line through us. And like Jodi was saying, it's very much like meaningful. So when you connect with a piece of hers, it's kind of like we have another line that she calls it talismanic jewelry, but I feel like they have that in common. So when I buy one of her pieces, I know it's handmade. I know that she's putting so much love and intention into it. And so it makes me feel really good to support that.
Yeah. And then one other one, we have Annie Band Jewelry. So Annie does things like she is a biologist who lives in a log cabin in Jackson Hole next to the river, and she loves the animals and she loves nature and outdoors. And so we have different jewelry from her. Some of it will be like talons or bones. So she collects the animal parts and pieces, and then she casts them and shrinks them down. Usually on all of her jewelry, it has like a word or two. And she also collects things on her travels and kind of uses that too. But the same idea of like, it's really intentional jewelry. And so we adorn ourselves in these, in our intentions, and work with, women who are working with their hands and really connected to nature. And yeah, we just really, really love her work and admire her.
Yeah, and when she has, like, I have an owl talon from her, and so every time I wear that, I feel like I'm kind of embodying that owl medicine. And she definitely has a very big reverence for animals, so she's using it in a very, very respectful way, which feels so good. And then karma stacks are one of our biggest pieces in the shop. The woman who makes them, her name's Gina, and she started beading when she was going through cancer treatment. She found it really meditative, and then she loved it so much she decided to make it a business. And so part of her, the proceeds go to cancer research, and everything just feels so like with the other jewelry, it just feels so full of love, and people will give these as gifts a lot. It's such a great way to just say like, hey, I was thinking about you, and I think this is something that I'd love to give you in life. And we have an offering on our website. We don't have these listed, but we have like intuitive karma stacks. So if you're working on something, we're happy to find a stone or a bracelet that feels good for you.
Yeah. The ringing of a bell represents a shift and signifies an ending or a beginning, a calling forth or a farewell. And so she was an employee that worked here, and she moved to Denver. And anyway, so we miss her, but we have her work in the shop, and we love.
And we love her so much too, because she got to, she started working with the stones after she worked here. And one of the things I know Jodi's really passionate about is everyone who comes in here kind of brings something to Jewelweed and then leaves, learning something. So it's really a place to grow and like find inspiration, and then kind of take that out into the world. And it's really beautiful. And we love all of our birds, even when they fly the nest. So cheesy.
Yeah. Jewelweed, one of the things that we're known for is our gift boxes, and we will have people either buy them on our website, or sometimes they come in and they usually are wanting to get a gift for somebody. It can be for a birthday, but also like if something happens, like we just had one that it's a first Mother's Day, and so I was working on that yesterday, and so we put and she said she's exhausted and she wants some nourishing items in the gift basket, and so we walk around the store and we fill up our beautiful gift boxes with all different items. And when we do that, we like to touch the senses. So we like to we want you to have an experience. So it's like something to taste, something to smell, something to hold, which is usually like a crystal, like something for inspiration, which might be words. So it could be a book or a deck, or, something like that just kind of invites people beyond the moment when they're just opening the gift box. And so, yeah, we're really, we love doing them, and especially the intuitive gift boxes. They're really fun. And we've had people, I had a lady march in here once, and she's like, I want to know who made this gift box. And I was like, me. And she's like, this is right on. How would you ever know this about me? And I was like, I didn't, but we kind of tune in. We usually get a name or a theme or something like that. And we really love to build that for people and offer that.
Well, thank you for the tour of the herb shop. That was awesome. I have to ask, what would you say are your intentions for Jewelweed?
Yeah, well, when I opened Jewelweed, a lot of people and a lot of my friends and a lot of the people in my community had no idea what I was talking about, or when I would be talking about all these things, or all these things I was using, or even the herbs. Nobody knew where to get them. And so, when I was learning herbal medicine, oftentimes, I don't know about you, but I'd end up in broken down barns, ripped up sofas, in the most random places ever. And I would always think I don't know if my friends would be into this,
right.
So so Jewelweed, I wanted it to be like this beautiful invitation for people to come and explore the different modalities of healing. And herbs is where I started, and kind of like one of the biggest parts of my life. But then it just became a lot more. Like I have a lot of other tools, and I just wanted to have a beautiful space that people could come into and have an experience either with the plants or with the crystals or with a book or a deck, and in community. And so they know how to use the herbs, because when I was doing it, a lot of times I had like my herbal friends, but that was a very limited group of people. So now I have like literally my whole community. I can talk about herbs, we can do crystals, we can do all this stuff together. And so that has kind of been like the driving force behind Jewelweed.
Curious about your women's circles and your classes in general. Can you tell us what goes on at the shop?
Yeah, so we moved to this bigger spot in November, so now we have more room again. We had room when we first opened to host classes. And so we'll do circles, like we have one called the Jewelweed Experience, where people come in and we pick something from every part of the store. And so like a couple weeks ago, we did it where we blended our own tea. So I had all herbs that I got from a farmer, Rhubarb Botanicals in Iowa. And so I had all of those out, and I just talked about tea blending and what that means and all the different plants and what they did. And then we all blended our own tea, and then that same night we would have a crystal, and then we would have we drank the tea that we made. We do a meditation, we'll do a kind of like some journaling. So anyway, it's meant to be an experience, because I feel like right now you can get information anywhere, right? You can go on any website and find out pretty much anything that you want to know, but it's the experience and the embodiment of like, what does this actually mean? What does it look like in practice to use herbs every day? Like, what is that? People don't know, they have no idea. And so we're just here to kind of like introduce, I always think we're a bridge, or right, we're just here to introduce to people all the different modalities and different things that they can use and work with. Tomorrow night we're doing a women's circle. We're doing it at my house because we want the fire. We're having a woman named Annie Fitzgerald. She's a singer-songwriter, kind of nationally known. Wow. And she'll come in and she'll do her sound bowls and singing, and then I have copal that I got when I was in Belize from a Mayan man, and we'll be burning that, and I'm going to give out samples to everybody so they can experience what that means to work with that plant. And then we have a flower essence that we made. The ferns are just unfurling right now, and so we made a flower essence of that, and because I feel like spring is a perfect time for all of us to unfurl and step into something that's new, and the ferns are so soft and beautiful. Anyway, so we'll be handing that out. We'll do a little fire ceremony, and just gathering like 25 women in a group. And so it's just, it's literally like my dream come true. I love it. Those are my favorite nights. Yeah.
Is it a lot of the same women coming each month or every time you do these, or is it like rotating? Do you see the community growing in this area?
Yes, definitely growing, because when I first started, again, nobody had, literally out here where I am, nobody had really heard about this or knew what we were doing. Yeah. And so people come in and they're a little scared, and then they might sign up for something, or people would come in and just look at everything for a while until they get enough guts to buy something or to step in, or they look at an herb and be like, okay, I'm going to research that and come back. And then we're like, okay, great. But I notice what happens is somebody will sign up for a class, they might come to a lot of things, and then they'll kind of step out, and then it's a whole kind of new group of people. But it tends to happen where some people will dive really deep. And I said it a little bit earlier, we took a group of people to Ireland. And so those people, there was like 21 people with Wild Routes Ireland. And those people tend to it was a year ago that we went, and so they all want to go back. They want me to have a reunion. So I haven't done that yet. Did you organize that event? Well, so
because I listed that event on HerbRally, so yeah, I'd heard about it. But.
Well, so I just went through. So actually, I found out about it through Rosemary Gladstar, because I had done that plant lovers trip to Italy. She had posted about the Ireland one that she did, and then they offered it. I think I took it by myself. I just went on that trip by myself maybe 5 years. Actually, the year I opened the shop in 2018. Wow. So I did that, and then I decided, well, I think I'm going to bring some friends back with me. So I brought 21 people back last year. Yeah, so it was amazing.
That's
and
a crew.
life-changing. Yeah, and so most of them are from Minnesota. So they're like, when are we gonna? Can we go to your house? So they're signing up for a lot of our stuff right now. So it's really fun. So we love it, and they have little reunions in the shop, and it's life-changing. Like an experience like that in a group, and it's amazing. So Chris and Tara do a great job. Yeah.
You seem to really emphasize intuition here and like following your heart, even the way you do like the gift baskets and stuff like that, and you train your employees. And does your son also have like the intuitive nature to him? Is he like helping people? Like, that's so cool.
Absolutely.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I find that really fascinating. Like on your website, I want to say like, don't know what you're looking for? Our staff can help you find it, you know, just by using your intuition. So first of all, can you talk a little bit about that? And do you kind of teach the customer to develop their own intuition in ways?
Yeah. Well, we often ask, so somebody will come in and, you know, let's just say they're stressed out and they're looking for something. And it's like, well, what is that? So I just ask and like, well, what does that mean for you, right? Some people are like, oh, I absolutely need a crystal for that. Some people are like, I need an herb. Some people need to read something. So it's like, yeah, I'm using my intuition, but I'm also just asking people like, what are you interested in? Because I think where we're drawn and what we're most attracted to is where we're going to find our most like the medicine, right? Yeah. What we need at the moment. And we have been taught not to trust ourselves.
Street is happening.
Yeah, busy. So I think society teaches us not to trust ourselves. So going back to my son, and I had to trust what his body was doing. I had to get really good at reading what was happening to him because he was 5 and he wouldn't even tell you he wouldn't even tell you he's about to have an asthma attack and he can't breathe and I'm gonna have to call 911, right? Yeah. So like I just got really good at like watching him, and then as I watched him, I watched my other kids, and then I watch other people, and I just see what happens, and I feel like when you are in tune to your body, it allows other people to have their like experiences and their feelings, and then you validate them. That's mostly what I do. So if I asked you if you need something, you know, what would that look like? Where would you start? Yeah. What are you interested in? And just helping people to say, you're right. Yeah, let's look at that. Let's look at, you know, anemone.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah. So what if that's what you need, right? So yeah, I do feel like that's all of our superpowers. Yeah. And so we just need to go back to trusting ourselves and our bodies. And yeah.
This is going to be a weird question, but I have to ask it because we're talking about intuition and stuff. Do you have any insight on like what goosebumps mean and stuff like that? And like when you get like the tingly feeling right above your head and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of times when I have those experiences, I feel like, I don't know, like I'm in tune with that moment and something is ringing true. Is that making sense?
That's
just
exactly
kind of curious
what I think.
Take on that. Yeah.
I think when there's a big coincidence, the goosebumps to me is like truth, or it's something I know, but I maybe I didn't know I knew it, or you know, I'll have goosebumps when there's like this an amazing coincidence or something that I cannot believe in the world would happen, and I'll be like, I mean, this has happened to me. People come into the store, people will say something to me, I'll say something to people. So it happens a lot between people, and I think exactly that. It just means you're on the right track. You know what you know. Yeah, the universe is just giving you that, like, yep, you know.
I'd probably say goosebumps like almost every other episode, but it's just very fascinating to me, and it happens to me all the time, and it just blows my mind. So anyways, thank you for confirming that to one degree or another. But curious, do you have any advice to those who might want to start a business like this, or open an herb shop of some sort? Yeah. I'm sure it's not all smelling roses and lavender.
Yes, it's been quite a journey. So when I opened, I thought I was making all my own remedies. I was making bath and body products, all my own simples, like my tinctures and salves and all that. So I thought that's what I was going to do. But then when I started, you know, trying to do the packaging and the labeling and everything to the standards that needed to be met, and talking to the Minnesota Department of Agriculture and just all of it, it was too much. And then what I was finding is there's actually like a lot of amazing people already doing it. So then I was like, okay, well, what's my role? Trying to look at like, what are my skills? What am I good at? What do I know? And then what do other people know? And so how can we like work together, even if I don't know them, right? Like, having their products. I know a lot of the people whose products we have, but we all don't need to do the same things. And so I was just looking for like, what would I knew I wanted to be working with the plants and all the stuff that I knew and be offering it and teaching it to people. And so, so the store, when I first opened, I was going to do all that, and that quickly became like, oh, that's really hard. And then, to own a small business, I work in a retail store, 5, 6, 7 days a week, whatever that looks like, right? And then, there's employees to manage, there's all the inventory, there's just a lot of stuff. And then you have all the social media, right? I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So that quickly became like, oh, I'm not going to be doing what I thought. And so it's being really adaptable and just seeing what works instead of me banging my head against the wall or being like, but I really wanted to make my products. I do. Yeah. And I might, if I don't have Jewelweed one day, or I'm going to be an old lady in a garden, probably making a lot of products. I don't know what I'll do with them, but right. So I can't do everything now. So it was like just deciding what I wanted to do, what worked. I think I mentioned a little bit when I first opened, I had like just a couple little things of crystals, and it turns out that crystals, people buy a lot of crystals, and they're easier. People are more comfortable buying crystals for something than they are herbs, especially people who haven't ever heard of any herbs. So I noticed that I might start with the crystals. Like Berit, my manager, she came in, I think she bought a crystal, she bought some astrology stuff. Now she knows a lot about herbs, but she didn't start there, right? Yeah. And so it's just like, so crystals for us have been, they make good money. They help us pay the bills. And some of the herbal stuff, like crystals don't expire, herbs expire, right? So there's just like a balance with some of that stuff. So I think just like, looking at what you're good at, seeing what sells, and just being willing to like, I don't know, even be wrong, right? And change course a little bit and correct and do things different and learn from your customers and work together in the community. And yeah, I think does that answer your question?
I love that, yes. Knowing your strengths is what you alluded to earlier. You're very clearly a community builder. And you were saying, I don't know if it was on camera or off camera, but you love sourcing. Like you're so good at it. You hand-picked each one of these items, and you're very passionate about each brand that you bring in. So, and then, also knowing your strengths. I mean, I'm sure you could make a nice product, but at this point with this store, you're not able to do that. So you're knowing where you're at with the store, and you want to source, and you source really well. And and then like you said, course correct. If something's not going to go your way or the way you planned it, you're just going to do something else, and there's no shame in that. I love that. HerbRally's done that so many times. We have all these ideas, and some of them don't come to fruition, and you just have to go the other way, and it's great. And sometimes it leads you on paths that you weren't expecting before. So no, you answered the question very beautifully. And I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff right there. Amanda and I were like, oh, we want to open a shop someday, maybe in 10 years or something like that. But it's another one of those things where it's like on the back burner. It's like, it's probably more romantic than it actually is. There's a lot of hard work that goes into places like this, and you make it look effortless. Also, talk about your background in interior design.
Well, even before that, so I have a degree in accounting, so I was a CPA.
That's how you met your husband.
Yep. So I met my husband in college, who's a CPA. That's awesome. Yep. And then I had little kids, and I was doing like some accounting work, and then for a small business that was doing interior design. Actually, I worked with my uncle, who was a general contractor for a while, so I started getting into houses. And then I started in design. I had a retail shop there. Then I had my own design studio. I love to create sacred space, right? Like that's what it was. And I was doing that, but as a designer, like a room would start at like $30,000. Like, so I couldn't impact hardly anybody, right? There's like hardly anybody who can afford that. So I was like, I'm gonna open a shop. And so everybody that comes in can spend $2 on a crystal and get something from like an offering. And so that's really what I wanted to do, is kind of like expand that out. But I think beauty heals. I think like, spaces that are tended and cared for and loved really show. And I imagine like all the plants and all the crystals and everything that I have, all the words go out into the world and like expand into like something greater than I ever hoped for. So I just like, that's what I imagine comes out of this place. And honestly, it is romantic to own a store. It's a lot of work at the same
Touché.
time.
Yeah, so well said. And it's not just the art and beauty and herbs, but then the aromas coming from everywhere, like just the vibe of the street, like it all creates this wonderful ambiance. And it's kind of leading to one of my last questions for you. I don't know if you're a Minnesota native or not, but I would love to hear you explain why you love Minnesota as a home, maybe even particularly this region. But yeah, coming from Oregon, which is beautiful in its own way, and then moving to Wisconsin, the Midwest, I have a whole new appreciation for the Midwest. I adore Wisconsin. I adore my hometown of Appleton now. And yeah, I just would love to hear you rave about, shoot, why Wayzata?
Wayzata.
Wayzata. All right.
I don't even know if I can say it now.
I ruined that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I love Minnesota. So I was born and raised in Minnesota. I actually lived in Northeast Minneapolis when I was younger, and I would pick rocks from the parking lot down the street and find agates from Lake Superior, which I think we kind of talked about Lake Superior a little bit earlier. And then I would sell them in my wagon. So my mom, when she comes in, she'll be like, "You're back to your roots selling rocks again."
That is so cool.
Yeah. So and I used to pick flowers too, and I actually would steal flowers from people's gardens, but my parents were big gardeners. So yeah, so I've been born and raised in Minnesota. I love the lake, all the lakes. I love the water. I love the people, right? The community. My husband is from the mountains, and so we go back there often. So it's very different there. So I come home and I'm
is that
just
up north?
home. He is from Wyoming, so the state of Wyoming.
Mountains.
The mountains. Yeah. So we go back there. One of my sons lives there now too. So it's very different. I don't know. It just, to me, people are very humble and they're hardworking and they're kind. And like this particular spot, like my kids grew up in this area, and it's very tight-knit community, and the water is really a big deal. So like, they sail and we spend a lot of time out on the lake and swimming, and that to me, like Jewelweed is here because of that water right there, that body of water. It's really special. It's a really special place. So
now you told me off camera, or you told us off camera, that you'll show up and work on a boat sometimes.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes, when I don't know how to drive the boat super well. We've had a couple stories of things gone bad when I try, but my 3 boys and my husband are awesome at it, and so they'll run me over and drop me off and then go back home, and those are my best days, my very best days at work.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, this has been awesome to get to know you, hanging out with Berit, and just lovely space. So did you have any closing thoughts or things you'd like to say to the audience before we get out of here?
I just appreciate HerbRally and all your work, like both of you, Mason and Amanda. Like really, I loved it. It's like when I go through all your stuff, it's like frosting or something. Like it literally is like candy, or I don't know. I was like, this is awesome. I love everything.
So neat.
So yeah, to be a part of it, I feel really honored, and thank you for listening, and thank you for being here. And yeah,
absolutely.
I just really appreciate it.
I'm glad we made this happen. Minnesota road trip or something like that. Herbal road trip. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Bye. See you next time. Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our HerbRally YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an HerbRally Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our HerbRally Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herbrally.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode, and take care.